The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. So it's the May Revit user group, a slightly unusual one. I think we're all at home virtual, which is, slightly easier for the format that we're doing tonight. And we'll just mention some of the next future groups too. The next group will continue to be online virtual, partly for the coronavirus scenario that we're all facing. I hope you're all doing well and managing through the strange times. Well, tonight we're going to go through Revit 2021, which I'm sure most of you by now have seen or read some parts about it. We're going to break down some of the great features.
There are a couple of great features.
What was that, Roger?
There are a couple.
A few. Enough to talk about it.
Yes, I'm
and
ready.
as you hear, we're joined by Roger Liucci from Microsol Resources.
Good evening.
He's going to go through some of the features tonight. I've known Roger for a long time. It's going to be very entertaining. We're really looking forward to it. And every year we look forward to this one, really, because it's, it's a lot of the focus on the group, from what you can tell from the name. So here we are. Food sponsors. You're not getting any food tonight by us. You can probably guess the reason. The sponsors are here, as you see. The space is also slightly different tonight. It's your home, hopefully. I hope you're all at home and not in any of these spaces. Here we are, here's us. Andre can't make it, which is partly why I am doing this tonight. You probably haven't heard me for a while. I have been around on the scene in conversations with our other organisers, but I rarely show up because I'm now in London, which is Andre's. I'm filling in for him. All our other groups, all our other organisers are here, as you can see. So next event, June the 18th, BIM in Academia. It will be another online meeting, just so that you know. We're putting together the panel currently, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. If you do have any ideas, or if you feel very strongly that you want to present and you'd love to go through some stuff, we're always open to hearing about people who are willing and able to present. So yeah, really open to your ideas. Feel free to reach out to any of us. So the group, just so that you know, we are very varied. We do try to mix it up on the theme and the content of each. Sorry, these slides are Andre. I'm going to blame Andre for this. He set these slides to this auto move on. Anyway, we're architects, engineers, owners, contractors, and we do try and mix the emphasis on who's presenting and what the content's about, to try and keep a good representation of the cross industry of how everyone is using the technological processes and tool, what they're doing with the tool. This is Andre's slide. I can't really bring myself to. It's a funny one, apparently. I did have to ask Andre about it, but it's basically, the words that we use a lot in BIM, and Roger's not allowed to talk about any of these words tonight, Roger, right?
Well, definitely not BIM model, for sure.
That's part of the game. But I'm going to blame Andre for this slide. But anyway, I'll introduce Roger. I've known him for a long while. Roger has been a design technologist for many, many years. I've worked with him directly and closely, very fluid. I'm always quite impressed with these sorts of presentations of how comfortable he is going through softwares and explaining them. So I think tonight's going to be really great, and looking forward to very capable hands of Roger walking us through the new tool. So over to you, Roger.
Thank you very much. I am unmuted, but I'm waiting to present my screen.
Actually, I'm going to interrupt. If there are questions, you can use the chat window. We're planning on putting the questions at the end of the presentation, just with these digital presentations. It's important we keep the, but we might take the questions if you put them in the window as we go. We'll definitely at the end. We'll be keeping an eye out for them, so please feel free to ask questions.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much.
Do you need Roger?
I think we just need to transfer. Here we go. Showing my screen now. All right, like we haven't done this before. We've done it a few times. We're pretty comfortable in these online meetings nowadays. And as Ian mentioned, we'll have an open conversation later on. At the end of the presentation, you guys can ask some questions or talk about what's new, or need any explanations, or want to just chat. If Andre shows up, maybe we'll all have a beer. All right, so here we go. What's new in 2021? Or what Andre likes to say, what's new in and around 2021. Thank you, Andre, for making a simple presentation name a little bit more difficult. But thank you, gentlemen, for hosting this and being part of the rug. I like coming around here every so often and see what you guys are doing and see if I could present some information. So here we go. Revit 2021. There's a lot of items in here. Good platform, architecture structure, MEP. There will be some tidbits for you guys to find throughout the presentation. One of my favorite features is listed here. But there's also features that you have asked for, who are the users and the designers and the architects and construction engineers and you name it. They've asked for these things. So there's a roadmap that Autodesk has been working on to make sure that they include the most suggested items or the items that everybody wants. So with the light bulb highlighted will indicate the ones that you've asked for. So from the Revit roadmap, from the ideas forum, I hope everybody's joined the ideas forum. Go in there and ask the engineers to put things in. Hey, what's going on with my presentation? We'll go back to the slides. So the more you ask for new features, the more possibility that it'll become a feature in the near future. So go ahead and join the group. What's interesting is there are also things that are not available in 2021, and this is things that I didn't want to focus on. We want to focus on the highlights, the new features, and what have you. But hey, there's some things that have been removed, and we should know about it, because I was a little disappointed when I heard about the site designer being taken out. I mean, we go back and we take a look, PDF imaging and things in schedules and enhancements with Dynamo and the new generative design. There are all kinds of new features that I'm sure you heard about. But yeah, there's even some that's been removed, model review and site designer. So there are solutions out there that you can use in replacement. But if you need any help, let us know. We definitely can direct you in the right direction. So when we start off, we'll be focusing on the platform features, our new features that are only available across the disciplines or across architecture, structure, and the engineers. So if you've noticed before in 2019, 2020, changing the way that you enter and look at the recent files. So now there's a BIM 360 link, and that'll take us to our cloud projects and docs. I'm sure there's going to be links for Team, but Teams are going away, and I'm sure everybody, especially in these times, have considered moving to the cloud. So it's going to make it easier. You're going to be able to see all your projects here, and in addition to that, you could always get access to support. So you could look at the online help from Autodesk, the community, or even just Google it. That's what I do. If you look closely enough, once you dig into a project, you'll even be asked or given the link to get to docs. So you're opening Revit to get to docs. I don't know. Usually I just go to the browser, but hey, it's a new feature. Ian will appreciate this. We're moving to Europe. So cloud model storage. I was surprised that it stayed in the US for so long, but really, where is it? Do you know where your stuff is? I'm not really sure. If I know where my projects are located and where they are, or how many times they've been synchronized, or how many iterations exist. So bottom line, more confusion about where your models are. I mean, if you understand how the Amazon services work, your models are really everywhere, right? They're backed up, they're synchronized, they're accessible any way you want. And if you, new to me is the cloud front. Basically, as you request information from your cloud projects like in Docs, you're actually going to be directed, once the data gets copied over, to local data. So it'll increase performance, and bottom line is you have no idea where it is, you don't really have a choice, but it's going to help. I really missed the
Is your
banter.
Ireland map?
Sorry, Ian?
Does your Ireland map mean that it's going to Ireland?
It is actually. It depends. It's either like Docs, Glue, and 360. It's either the U.S. or Ireland, depending on whether your account is based out of. So again, it's a little confusing, but it's dynamic and it changes. And I thought you were criticizing my Ireland map. I mean, there's two sections here. All right, we won't go there.
Oh, we can't cover that tonight, no.
No. But yes, Ireland. So when you're actually creating your BIM 360 account, you can actually specify where you want it to be, and that's for most of the stuff. It gets a little confusing because there's so much different kind of data that we're using. So for instance, if we initiate a model to Docs, it's really using BIM 360 Design. If you're simply saving a Revit model, you can actually nowadays go File, Save As, and take a cloud model and just host it up to a project. It's not really initiated. It's not really, accessible by Revit or by multiple people using Revit. So it's not collaborative. Anyway, there's a lot of options out there, and hopefully this will end up making it more stable and faster. How many? I'm assuming, Ian, you use a lot of BIM 360 Design nowadays.
We use a bit, not as much as a lot of people. Over in our office, our Kansas City office do a lot. I think it's most useful for in the days when some of you might know about setting up Revit servers.
Oh my gosh!
It is easy, and when you know the technological kind of aspect of what goes on behind the scenes, it is quite incredible. The technological side, but it's all
the conversation is going to get cut real quick if you keep breaking out like that. Moving on. PDF lane.
Yeah. Anyway, we could talk. Let's go.
Yeah, it seems like at least on my side there was a little bit of a breakup of your audio skipping across the pond, as it were. So hopefully everybody can hear us fine. I'm watching the attendee view as well, and I see Annalisa fielding some questions. So we're trying to stay in touch with everything that's going on, and we look forward to talking to you guys after the presentation. So speaking of data, speaking of where it's located, you can actually bring in images and PDFs into Revit, but then now they can also be located in cloud locations. So that's pretty cool because, if I wanted to embed a PDF, that Revit file gets bigger. So now we can link it to another location, and being in the cloud, that's even better because, unlimited data size and, the infinite computing power. So taking images and PDFs and bringing them in is easier and a lot more manageable. So there's that. I think it's more of an underutilized command. I'll try to focus on some of those. Speaking of utilized, do we want to customize what content is available when we start Revit? So I installed Revit. I started to rock and roll. I was excited. 2021, here it is. And then it asked me all these questions. It was like I was being interviewed. So you fire it up and it asks you, what do you do? What's your job role? I'm like, are you a detailer or a technician? I'm like, wait, what are you asking me for? So basically, you can customize your experience and kind of reduce the amount of user interface that's being used up by the ribbons and the tools and whatnot. Okay. So as long as I can undo it. So guess what? You can undo the customized Revit user interface. So this happens once in a while. We have a new feature in Revit. Last year was the 3D graphic for the origin. Do I really need this? So how do I undo this? Thanks for the new feature. So in this example, we have the ability to customize a workspace. And if you wanted to undo that, you got to go in and get detail and technical and rename the XML and find it first. But anyway, customize your Revit and confuse and limit the amount of tools that are available. Thank you. New feature. This is great though, because more and more of our hardware is being, on the video card. So now not only we can do hardware, but we can also do graphic acceleration. So, if you're having any problems with your hardware, you disable acceleration. But now we can also increase the overall user interface, visual experience, and use hardware graphics. Did anybody see that? Look at that under there. Unlock your PC. Force it to do more. Overclock. I used to do that to my phones. One time when I really needed it, it needed a new image. So I don't do that anymore. Speaking of fun new stuff, we install Revit 2021 and we have all of the other content that you learned about, right? The new content. Oh, I went in there. Different disciplines and new content available. So we go ahead and we install the content or install Revit 2021 and there is no content. So that's not a new feature. That's a lack of a feature. I install 2021, I'm going to want to open and get the typical families that I'm used to, but I have to go out and install them first. So make sure to get content. It was so much of a problem that you actually have to have a button to get content. Normally I install my application and I pick Imperial and Metric and I get all the content. Now you have to go out and get different content or additional content. So they're not going to package the Revit 2020 installation with Chinese simplified or stuff from the UK. So you got to go get it yourself. So we have a lot of content, but don't provide any content. I'm not going to pick on Autodesk the whole time. So just in case you were wondering. Schedules. Being able to view schedules. Now that I'm getting older, it's more and more difficult for me to see. I have transitions now, believe it or not. So being able to actually have the highlight come alternating and being able to select an item in a row and actually being able to have that row highlighted automatically. Thank God, or thank your God, thank mine. He doesn't care. Like I said, new content, infrastructure, discipline. There's a whole bunch of new bridge categories. So there's a lot of opportunities to go beyond architecture and engineering, and consider the entire site and the entire circulation, the city impact, and yeah, so it grows. In order to do that kind of stuff, you really needed another unit. So now there's U.S. survey foot because you didn't have enough. Speaking of not having enough, for those programmers and scripters, you need more Dynamo. You want more Dynamo. You want more, and you want it accurately updated and consistent. For the last year or so, and so now it's 2 years, Dynamo is embedded within Revit and it updates within Revit. So that's pretty important for those using it, making scripts, running these things, bringing in things that other people have made. And that's really the way of this era or this culture. if you're going to design a new tool or a new application or new software or a new website, you're going to share it. It's most likely going to be open source and available for people to improve upon and develop. So Dynamo is doing more and more of that. And if you haven't heard of the Dynamo player, you definitely should check it out. We're going to get into Dynamo a little bit more, but on the platform aspect, there are new nodes added, allowing easily or easier. Definitely, Dynamo is not easy, but easier access to Revit functions. Nodes are basically only parts of the overall script. So nodes like join geometry and unjoin all geometry, which is the bane of some of the projects that I've seen. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but a wall joined to another wall, and then you move one wall and you leave the join. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for improvement, and being able to use Dynamo on all items or all aspects of your project is going to be useful, and it's only going to get better. Speaking of only going to get better, when you're in a view and you're creating these filters, I couldn't believe you couldn't just have all filters in all views and turn them on and off when you needed them. So for those using filters, they're going to be happy to see that you can actually load the filters or have the filters accessible and just control when it's visible. So it's a big deal. Giving the ability for to quickly apply and remove view filter graphic overrides. Why wasn't this always available? So some of my comments are snarkier than others, depending on when I was editing the PowerPoint. So stay tuned. Look for those nuggets. Being able to rotate tags. How long did it take to get this? Right? I mean, you have a door in a sloped wall or an angled wall, and you couldn't have a tag that was aligned with that wall. So now it's something that's available, but guess what? It's going to be difficult. Andre was furious when he found out about this feature because he wanted it so bad, and it just requires a little bit extra work. You have to actually go into the family editor and enable the rotate with component. But that means that it's always going to be rotating with a component, and it's never not going to be rotating with the component. So which do you want? Do you want them all to be rotated, or do you want some to be rotated? So new feature, create more accurate and readable annotations, but not the way you want. I missed the chuckle. I mixed the clapping or something. We really should open up the mics to everybody. So prepare to open up the mics later, and maybe even the webcams. Another feature that's
play a laugh track if you'd like.
Oh, you could. I mean, if you'd like, you could stay on and chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, good. Chuckle.
Pass it back to you. Pass it back to me. I like the dynamic workflow. I mean, we used to do it with Andre all the time. Sometimes he'd take over, or anyway. So voids. This is useful when you need it, and not useful when you don't. But for those who need it, it's kind of great that you can actually have it as a type and instance parameter. It's a lot more flexible. It gives a lot more control over when you're using voids in the families. By the way, voids are much more memory extensive than solids, just so you know. Other additions, and this is still on the platform level. We haven't even dug into architecture yet. That's next. But hard-coded Revit line styles doesn't sound like a great thing, but for somebody who likes consistency and standards, I think it's a great thing because people tend to break everything that that we hope they wouldn't break. And there's that one that I mentioned. Internal origin was great in the previous release, I guess, for those who want to know where it is, but now it's off by default, so that's good. So you don't always have to see this. But when you want it, you want it. So now let's get into architecture. And at the top of the list is the new generative design feature, giving us the ability to put a sweatshop together really quickly. We could put a lot of desks really close together and not worry about the length of time it gets to an exit. No, I'm joking. You shouldn't do it that way. But anyway, generative design. Was that a chuckle? Was that a good one?
Yeah, it was a good one. Good one, Roger.
I'm gonna fire it up later and show you how it crashes the computer. But there are a couple of studies that one can use or can generate with generative design component. But the cool part is when you learn how these things are being written, then you get a taste of the script in Dynamo, and you want more. So these examples that are within Revit now, sure, they're going to explore. I mean, they're going to expand, and you're going to have more capabilities of generating, all kinds of these studies. But really, once you open up the web page and look at the HTML, you kind of get a feel for it after a while. It's a bad example, but like in the Matrix, spending enough time looking at the screen, and you're going to see the woman in the red dress. Demo. So I have a couple of links. I was hoping to include some videos, so we'll share these videos with others because they're really kind of some some great videos that illustrate. Let's see if this works. With the AC collection, we got massing box, massing, outcome-based decision making. Did everybody want that in their design? I think so. We all want outcome-based decision making. So generative design, there are a couple of great ways that you can get started. The three basic ones are the massing, the furniture alignment, like the workstation alignment, and views to outside. If you want to learn more about how these things work, deeper beyond what you're seeing in Revit, you'll be able to explore websites like generativedesign.org, and Microsol resources can help you get started. We have actual programmers on staff now. Very excited about that. But other examples are like placement of views on sheets or solar analysis. We're really just getting started. Using intelligence and AI to to help our design process. But just like everything else with architecture and construction, we're way behind. So I know that video showed up, but was there any audio or just me chattering on top of it?
Just your voice, Roger. But I also shared that link on the generative page, so we can
cool.
Share it with others.
Yeah, and this one in here is good too. All right, anyway, the improvements about Revit continue. One of the coolest things are really the way that the realistic view has changed. I mean, we can go from hidden line to shaded with edges, and it was a couple of other realistic and ray trace modes, but more and more of Autodesk applications are including Arnold. So we're seeing a lot of intelligence regards to automatic lighting exposure and immersive real-time rendering. So with a click of the button, now we're getting some really, really good material and lighting appearances. 10 times improvement in performance. So that's pretty good, and I've explored quite a bit of it. So you got to check that one out. Just go to any camera view or 3D view and enable realistic views. Slanted walls, because hey, we all needed that. I was hesitant, almost didn't use Revit for a project because I couldn't slant a wall. Anyway, it's kind of cool, and I think maybe I should just jump in and do this one, but I'll skip for a second. I'll get into the demo in a moment. So curved walls, straight walls, they can all be tilted, go from slanted to vertical. What's nice is even the host will do it too. So your doors or windows can be slanted because you gotta have that. So let's fire up. Let's go into Revit. That's not Revit. Let's go into Revit. So I'm going to go to this other project. Oh wow, where's my other one? I like the little house too, but oh well. So we're here. I'm just going to grab any wall, and I can do it right here. We'll see. Sure, I didn't practice this, but there's the property. grab that wall, switch it from vertical to slanted, and then you put an angle. And there's curtain wall mullion issues. Of course there is. But I
You
need
go for a slanted curtain wall on your first attempt, Roger.
I know, right? Well, you know. So what happens when you do that? You really should practice these things before you do it. So, you know, I'm just breaking the building and saying, I don't care. The curtain wall is trying to fix itself, and it did an okay job. I mean, it wasn't an okay curtain wall in the first place, but, you know, any of these walls, whether they be curved, straight, or whatever, can be slanted. And then what you do is you would come in and select the element, because, you know, hey, if I got a slanted wall, I gotta have a slanted door too, right? So slanted door. Are there? I'm sure there are slanted doors somewhere in the world, but you know, hey.
Yeah, it's opening up a can of worms, isn't it? Slanted windows, doors. To agree with that, the manufacturer.
That's what I'm saying. You know, did we need these things? Anyway, it is kind of fun, and there's plenty of interesting like small applications for making things like this. You know, depending on what, like soffits, or you know, there's all kinds of really cool ways that we could use this. But you know, people are going to be tempted to, you know, to do silly things. I actually did a class down the block from Yale, and there was a speaker, one of my clients actually, a speaker who just, you know, come talk about their work and what have you. And he was trying to convince me that the more and more architecture is Revitized. And, you know, are we going to have more buildings with slanted walls because of this feature? I'm not sure. Anyway, but like I said, windows, doors, whatever you want, you can have them in there as well. And if you need be, you know, you could play with the window and just make it, you know, with a deeper sill, or you could actually say, well, you know, come on, slant it. All right, we did that already. Back to the presentation. I mean, I think we got the bottom line of this one. More fun, more headaches, more fights in the construction trailer.
Slightly disappointing too, though, isn't it?
Why?
Well, it's like all those cool workarounds that you could give talks on now, and it's in a button. All those years of developing slanted windows and doors on putting walls on a map, gone.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about now?
Yeah, there was an Autodesk University class. It was like a 3-hour class, and there were like 100 people in there, and they were just plugging away on how to make a vertical, you know, a window slant, or you know, or fill a slanted wall, or yeah.
They'll have to remove it from the Autodesk University website now.
Yeah, it's got to be deleted. Anyway, speaking of, you know, you're trying to make something cool that's a little bit more difficult to build. Why not bring it to Inventor? And I've seen a lot of really smart designers, engineers, architects, you know, build more, you know, complicated structures and really intelligent structures, things that could move, things that could be flexible, things that could be, you know, more intelligent systems. So Autodesk has now started talking about this function, this in AnyCAD. At first, I thought it was like a new application or a competitor's tool. But AnyCAD is basically, you know, a process. It's like a plugin. It's going to help, you know, communicate information between different CAD applications, and it's pretty wild. It there's a lot of stuff that it can do between, you know, things like Inventor or AutoCAD and SolidWorks and Inventor, and so some more interoperability basically, you know, between Revit and the other applications. So we're not building to the level that Inventor is capable of. When I say building, I say building within Revit. And if it does, it's typically going to slow down your application. So why not integrate you know, Inventor into the workflow? Inventor rocks. So we're cruising right along. We've already went through the architectural features. I'm going to keep going. and talk about some of the other ones. But I'm curious, I'm not as in tune in the structural, well, I would say I'm not as in tune in the MEP world as I am in the structure and architectural world. But I'd be curious if anybody wants to chime in. That's a great feature, or I've been waiting for that feature a long time. Maybe you could throw something to Annalise, and she could chime in related to structure or MEP. We didn't do a little hands up to get an idea of how many architects versus construction versus engineers. But in the past, if there were 60 people in the presentation of the Revit user group, in some WeWork space a long time ago, there was maybe 3 or 4% were engineers. But there's still some great stuff.
Coincidentally, somebody had asked actually about improvements in the rebar hosting. It sounds like there might be some as well. I don't know if you have. Yes,
yeah, quite a bit.
Thank you.
Quite a bit. See, perfect like that. There's that one guy. And I bet it was the guy in the last meeting as well, raising his hand. Damn straight, I'm an engineer. All right, well, let's take a look at some of the rebar shit stuff, because there really is quite a bit. More codes and more, bending instructions. Basically, you don't have to rely on what's in the box. You have a lot more flexibility on the rebar that you're interested in doing. Hook rotation is considered when defining the rebar shape. So that just basically means that rebar numbering considers hook rotation as well, which is all right. Shouldn't it have? I know I always do that, but there's some good stuff, and it's all schedulable as well. Sorry, I didn't forget. I forgot to mention that it's schedulable as well. So you're going to be able to see diagrams of your. I hope more and more people are using images in their schedules, because it better communication. And when you're doing rebar and this complicated work like this, then you're going to need as much communication tools as you can get. So this feature helps structural engineers and detailists create highly detailed reinforcement models and documentation. Again, arced and sloped. Does it do sloped? I got to know. So I'm going to have to take a look at that and do some testings. I didn't test arced and sloped rebar, but we can hope. The end treatments are neat because you get the little visual representation and when people start to see these models, I wonder if they go like, oh man, I hope my structural engineer doesn't model rebar. Rebar is only visible in the views that you decide to show it. So it's not like your model is going to be bogged down with all of this rebar. I mean, it's really just lines. It's not a billion polygon rebar with the actual shape of a piece of steel. Anyway, some more stuff. We talked about the end treatment, 3D solid fabric sheets and visualizations. So, now wouldn't you also want to do Clash? So that's improvement. I got a kick out of that. I thought that was pretty neat. Bottom line, it's going to help with the engineers and the detailers. It really is. Overhook lengths. There are a lot of structural rebar related improvements. So I hope our colleague is happy with these. Being able to easily customize them and be able to clearly see the parameters that are available. I don't know how much instructions are necessary in these type of documentation, so I'd be interested to talk after the session. So, in addition to that, more automation related to precast, because more and more of our designs are precast, and Autodesk has been doing their efforts to make sure that the parts that one would do for precast are right there on the on the main list. And speaking of structure, you got to have more nodes available for Dynamo. So we mentioned that on the platform level there are more nodes. On the structural and architectural level there are more nodes. Essentially, basically giving you easily access to incorporate these components into your your automated generative scriptings. So I got a kick out of this. Knowing limited, having a limited understanding of what the engineers are doing within the design. You know, we have to trust them and understand they know what they're talking about, but being able to visually experience how these changes or how design changes would affect, you know, the slabs and the loads and the distribution and the forces and the, you know, so it's kind of neat to be able to actually see the results in screen and be able to visualize and share why I'm making, you know, why he or she are designing the structure in this way. Being able to go and modify the connections. It was always easy, you know, as long as you understand what plane you're working in. But these are making it easy because, you know, there's always custom conditions. There's always custom or different contours depending on the design, depending on the installation plan. So, you know, it makes it a little bit easier having some of these improvements. It's just getting better and better. You know, structure was part of Revit from the beginning. So the first release of Revit, at least the one that I saw from Autodesk, had structure built in. And it was just a year or so afterwards that they turned it on and enabled access to it. So it's been there from the get-go. And we're just trying to make it better so that people can really copy and paste these things from connection to connection to populate the design with a typical connection design. So it's kind of cool that you can grab all of these things that you see in orange and just copy and paste them and align them to you know, systems, full systems. I don't have any really good jokes on these because they're, you know, engineers are serious. You know, we're not fooling around here. So studs and bolts, you know, we can make as many jokes as you want, but when it comes down to putting it out there, they're putting their stuff on the line. MEP, there's quite a bit more. I probably should be getting back into Revit, so we'll cover over these couple more slides, and then we'll open it up for questions, and I could illustrate some of these features. So as far as the engineering is concerned, in order to make Revit more adaptable to the global market, there's got to be some flexibility when defining circuit names and schemes. So I don't understand how many they, you know, how deep it can go, but it's being improved, and you know, by project versus L&M panel boards. So another feature that, you know, for engineers, you deal with it all the time, and you always knew that this was a limitation. By the way, I have a slide at the end that's going to be fascinating for everybody. You know, limitations were always there on the mechanical and electrical sides, but this is a pretty big improvement, you know. So there's different ways of scheduling and being able to hide the column for the third phase. There's it's a pretty big one. It's probably the biggest on the list when I was talking to one of my engineering friends. Quantity too, of course, you know, but you know, being able to actually have a parameter, and they're renaming some parameters in some instances. So hopefully it doesn't cause more problems than it's worth, but you know, you have to rename them sometimes to make more sense and give more room for the new features. So max number of circuits. So switch phases and parameters and spares, and yeah, this is getting even more complicated, but the idea of being able to see it all and make changes bidirectionally and, you know, manage these systems fully throughout the entire project is a pretty big deal. This one, electrical engineers with faster and more consistent navigation for panel schedules. Yeah, I mean, you know, why was it so complicated before? And I've seen people with really complicated naming structures. Now it's easier to browse through the system. And I don't know if you guys are using the system browser much in the architectural side, but yeah, it's big. There's a lot going on the engineering side that us architects typically don't see on a normal basis. And you know, something like this simple as this, it's a lot easier now to look through a project that has multiple engineers working on it, and be able to see who's got what, or who could have possibly modified what while I'm trying to modify something. So these, you know, these branches and these systems are huge, but I would hope that, you know, the engineers are working on level by level or system by system and not interacting with each other's systems, but if you haven't used the work sharing display before, you really should. It color codes and organizes, who's editing what within a multi-user collaborative environment, cloud or otherwise. So I have absolutely no experience with the P&ID. Piping an instrumental diagram, I know that. Piping an instrumentation diagram, I know that. But other than that, I didn't know of the limitations. So being able to take this information and bring it to, bring it to the cloud is great. We want more. We want more. Being able to have these the intelligence within these large, piping systems. This isn't a large piping system, by the way. So if you've seen some of the Croton water facility, I remember seeing that back in the day. It's huge. Pumps and pumps after pumps after pumps. P&ID is what the the real engineers are using, and to be able to incorporate that and make a connection. Revit can do quite a bit of complicated systems, but the plant or P&ID is taking it to the next level. So it's kind of like our improvement with taking Civil 3D to the cloud. That's fantastic. So maybe this industry is going to see improvement in docs as well. There's not a lot of, I neglected to put BIM 360 docs improvements in this list because it's just too many. It's constantly updating. I should make mention and bring you over there at the end. So there's more. Fabrication extension, system analysis. I mean, a lot of people are using all the fabrication tools that Autodesk has designed and brought into the the design and engineering and analytical interfaces. Being able to have that inside is great. And if you haven't used Insight, you definitely should. Being able to take both architectural engineering and basically do all that system analysis online is getting more and more accessible and easier to use. Your models are getting easier to create. I can create an energy model with a click of a button, and more of those improvements are incorporated into the HVAC analysis. So it's getting really, really accurate, really, really interesting, and I think everybody should enjoy that. Now let's talk about that interesting slide I mentioned. Issues resolved. So we talked briefly about things that were removed, but it's pretty cool to see a huge list of things that have been improved upon, things that were broken that we didn't know were broken. So this was, I pulled a couple of really interesting ones out. There was an issue, a known issue, with account sign-in, fixed an issue when closing Revit. So, hey, that's good. There was a memory leak when signing into A360. Well, thanks for fixing it, and thanks for being open about it. The API has been improved to detect massive solids and elements interaction. That's kind of cool. I want to know more about that. So when I click on that link, it brings me to the issues resolved page, and there are pages after pages after pages. There was one with an array, fixed an issue when it occurred when assigning a label to an array where the label definition does not the criteria for an array. I don't even know if that's a complete sentence, but it sounds cool. Anyway, I could spend some time in here, and maybe you should as well. So those links are included. There's all kinds of joint geometry improvements and issues related to line work tool and the linking topography.
Wait, what's the grey text? The grey text here is.
Which one you like?
Well, wait, you've got, okay, so every single one of them. So you've got links on the left there, and then all of these are.
I called out a couple of ones that I thought were cool, but all of these on the right are a list of all of the issues that have been improved and their category. So there was some Dynamo.
What's the issue that's improved with line?
Let's go.
I'm just testing you.
Yeah, no, let's go. Oh, I don't remember exactly, but they improved the stability when rotating project north for a project containing invalid witness line. Now, there's a couple of interesting ones. I don't care about exporting DWGs, but offsetting symbolic lines in a certain family, there was an issue with. displays with consistence. No, you don't want to know all these. Fixed an issue
Okay,
that would result in a serious error in mirroring very short lines. Well, who's mirroring very short lines? But there was an issue and it's fixed. Aren't you glad? Ian,
someone did.
Ian, how many
Yeah.
times did you get that error about the line being too short?
I think that was me creating that. I had so many issues that I created the metrics for making them improve it.
This one has your name on it.
Yeah.
You know what? I had one too. You know when you I'm going to go to Revit. You know when you go and you import CAD for whatever strange reason, and you got this button down here that says correct lines that are slightly off axis. I had a project.
Yeah.
I had a support case with Autodesk that went on for 2 weeks, and they wouldn't admit that Revit was straightening out some lines. And I proved it to him. I said, "You've got to be kidding me. Look at this drawing. Here's the drawing." And basically, the next release or the next update, there was this button here. Do not correct lines that are slightly off axis. Who would ask them? Who would ask Revit to do that?
Do not. No.
Well, actually, no. Some guy.
Like one of those philosophical pursuit things, isn't it?
Yes.
Do we accept perfection or not? Anyway.
I'm always striving for perfection. My my snap precision is at 164th or something, 128th. But yeah, so I think what we should do is we should probably get into this generative tool. I'll see if I could break it. So generative design, we're going to take a piece of furniture and we're going to arrange that furniture or that desk, a bunch of times. I think it actually might have to be done with a desk. So I'm going to take that desk and I'm going to arrange that desk so we have the maximum number of desks in the space with the shortest distance. So here's generative design. And basically, you fire up one or the other. When you say create a study, you have 3 options. Maximize window views, which I don't know why I need artificial intelligence to tell me that. 3-box massing, an opportunity to play around with some volumes. You're talking about maybe entry, podium, and a gym or the tower itself. And then you got workspace layout. So in your workspace layout, you select the room, and then you select a piece of furniture. All right? And basically you start to designate what kind of options I expect to have. So, I want average distance to exits. I want to maximize number of desks. I want to maximize my views. And let's see what happens. So I had a couple generated over here. And if I look at them, it crashes Revit. So it froze for a second, but I'm back. And I probably should make note, this generative design tool is available with the AEC collection. So I'm going to skim back to my slides, and we're going to show you just to make sure it was clear. Yeah, here it is. So basically, if you have the AEC collection, then you're going to have this tool, this generative design tool. And it's chugging along back there, actually. But this is where it grew up. So basically, this is where Autodesk started to offer these kind of tools. And this is where they showcase the new samples and the new workflows. So, the new workflows that we spoke about that they integrated into Autodesk are the 3 that I showed you. Organizing the views or getting the better views to the outside, the 3-box, and the workstation. But there are more, and they're constantly working on how these things can be used and how people can customize them. And so basically, you can come in here into the refinery and you could download the toolkit and start learning how to make your own scripts or how to take scripts and modify them. But look at this thing. So this is an example of a script. Basically listing information and organizing that information based on the list and based on the data in the list. But from Revit, you have certain access to certain data, certain access to nodes, and have the opportunities of modifying that data and moving it around. And I don't know why this website seems to be jumping around, but I'm going to go back to Revit. Could it be that the generative design tool has broken? Well, I wanted to show you how it works. What basically happens is it generates these outcomes, and what I was doing was I was playing with the workstation down here, and I was playing with these chairs up here. And what happened was the workflow that I designed was substituted for this chair. So I wanted to generate the workstations, the desks, but it substituted it for the chair. And now, as you can see, it's white. So time for another video.
So it decided you should have chairs instead of desks.
Yes, because I modified the design based on the new chair instead of the desk that I previously worked on. So what I should have done is basically created a new one and renamed it and made another session. But basically, you come in here, you toggle a couple of parameters, and it gives you a set of results based on the criteria. But I can come in here. Oh, this is the one I showed you already. I'm so sorry. Here's the longer one. And it's muted, but Annalise has shared these videos with the group. So you're watching them afterwards or watching them instead of listening to me. But we'll skip a little bit here and we'll look at no, this is the same one. No. So not only is it crashing, but it's also messing with my videos. So this is the other one. This one actually gets into a little bit more detail. So when we come over here and we ask it to generate the workflow of the workstation layouts, here it is. Now it's not that complex of a space, but the more complex space or the curve of the space is, or if it was more had more steps in the space, you pick the room, you pick the workstation, and it starts to lay out the different spaces. That's not that interesting, but some of them are a little bit more interesting than others, right? So like if I pause it here, hey, that's a little bit more interesting. That's a little bit more dynamic. All right, so it's a start, and you're going to be able to to get in there and start customizing it. At least I would hope some of them, some of the people who are going to play with this tool are going to get in there and start playing with it, right? But I rebooted my machine prior to the presentation. Let's see if I could explore the outcomes that I already generated. Because that's a key, when you start working through a design or working through a presentation, you want to make sure that you've tested the presentation and that you go through and you make sure that you can replicate it very easily. So even though I've deleted these previous examples, these workstation layouts, they're still there and they're still cluttering up my system. But there's a couple that I already created, and basically they're done. So this one is made 10 iterations of this design based on the room, the door, the exit, and the workstation. So it's kind of cool that I can fine tune my requirements and say, hey, I need a smaller space between rows. I'm trying to get more desks into this thing. maybe start to lower, do it this way. Maybe start to lower the distance to the exits to figure out which would go, or higher, or make it higher. Ah, and there it goes again. Oh, man. Yeah, well. All right, so you kind of got a taste of it. The videos are very useful. The website is dynamic. There's a lot going on. I can't seem to generate it. All right, enough of it. I don't even want to go. Ian, what else would you like to see? Or let's maybe this is an opportunity to open it up to the audience.
Let's see.
Hi. Speaking of, I just want to let you know that Andre is done with his meeting, so he's online, and I just made him a presenter. So I also just let you know. And also, just Roger, one of the other questions that we had, could you just clarify the generative components? Did you say that it's only available in AEC collection, or is it available for those with Revit Hero products or individual Revit products?
Well, that's my experience, is that it's available for the AEC collection only. I mentioned this.
Okay,
I mentioned this to the marketing department at Microsol Resources.com.
This is a bit confusing, yes. So it's the first time they've done it, right? Because most of the things that you mentioned, are there any other features that are
not that I know
only
of.
For AEC collection?
No,
okay.
Not that I know. So my experience was, hey, I'm excited to get ready and learn 2020 and present it to the user group, and when I go to fire it up, it asks me for a license. And partners, resellers don't always get the collections, so we have individual products. Anyway, we were able to get it.
How's it paid for then? Is it credits, like the rendering credits or something?
No, there's no need for credits, right? It just chugs along.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody could abuse it, right? I think maybe there was a discussion somewhere about. Let me just make sure. I put a lot of notes. This thing is note packed. So when we get to architecture, sorry. So I have the demo, I have the video, other examples of generative design and abilities to learn, places to learn more. But no, I don't think there was any other limitation that I found about using it, like like you said, credits based or no.
Thanks for clarifying that. I also added a blog link for everyone. Oops, sorry. Looks like I only sent it to certain people. Here you go for everybody else. It's a blog link with all the with the confirmation. Generative design is only available for the AEC collection, folks. And that's strange.
Yeah. Hey, Andre, do you want to
ask everybody else if they have questions? They can post it on the questions box or the chats box.
Yes. Could raise their hands, right?
I have a question. What was it? It's at the beginning. Sorry, I've forgotten it.
Well, you're live, so you can ask as many questions as you like.
Let me see. I wrote it down.
This better be good. Hey, Andre, I also thought I'd fire up this project for Andre's benefit. Check this out. I'm also, I'm working on my German. Look at this. Building information modeling is an intelligent 3D model-based process that provides architects, right? I can do it pretty good. Ian? You were going to say?
I've got a question, Roger. Yeah, I see the German. Was ist BIM? What is the site designer? Why was that taken out? Do you know?
Yeah, where did it go? Where did it go? Yeah, I really wish I knew why. I don't have the opportunity to ask them why. I learn about the tools, and I learn about their you know, the new features. But yeah, I don't know why they took it away. You
Right.
used it a couple times. I mean, I've taught a couple classes on it actually.
We were just getting into it. There's a dependency of it through Civil 3D,
Yeah.
I believe,
Yeah.
and the connectivity of Revit and Civil 3D and that sort of thing. I believe you needed that add-in for a certain like
Oh, no,
connectivity with it.
I don't think so. I think the site designer is a separate plugin that allows, you know, topographical manipulation. But you think it was a requirement for linking site work?
No, it wasn't a requirement. It was like an added feature that I forgot. We just learned it recently. That allowed you to do certain workflows with Civil 3D in relation to Revit and Civil.
All right. Well, we'll do more research on that, and we'll bring it to the group if you know, if anybody else has some interest in the tool and all the other alternatives, right, for getting there.
Hey, Roger and Ian, I just did a quick
Yeah.
search and it looks like it is gone, confirmed, site designer's gone. And somebody was even asking on the Autodesk forum that while they didn't think it was the best tool, they imported for land XML properly. They did suggest another workaround for, you know, topography, which is basically using Civil 3D and Revit instead. I
Right.
don't know if that would help you guys.
They're definitely improving Civil 3D's connection and ability to share site work. So maybe that's the plan. You know, I mean, nothing builds you know, contours and roads and, you know, all that better than Civil 3D. So maybe they decided to just you know, focus their efforts on the tool that works really well.
Maybe. I can't. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, what do you think, Annalise? Do we have the opportunity to either unmute Andre, which I just did? I probably should
I
have asked.
just Yeah, I asked him just to make sure he was okay and that we can hear everybody. And then I know you said we would do open mic. My fear on that is that not everybody's ready, or somebody would put it on hold, and then we have this
Yeah.
intermittent
Yeah,
music.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, if there's anybody who has any other questions, we'd be happy to entertain them right now. If Andre wants to join us, he can unmute himself.
Bernard wanted to find out our rebar on slope slab. Are they recognizing slab openings? Now it's a very structurally engineering focus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, rebar, area rebar and such like that, you definitely can, you know, can do it like a beam system where you could sketch and identify the openings. I don't know if it's identifying the openings automatically. I really thought that was a feature already. So yeah, they can get in touch with us and we can do more research and confirm or deny.
Sounds great. And I know Sandra had a question about would it work for the future for light fixtures and diffusers, but I don't know what she meant, if what would work.
Yeah, what was that again? Just repeat it.
Sandra said, would this work in the future for light fixtures and diffusers?
Oh, maybe she means the generative design.
Yes,
Right?
I
To
think so.
populate a space with you know, lighting and have different options for layout and
Energy analysis, I'm not sure, but
yeah, it could have been energy analysis related, or it could have been just like placing these things intelligently around. But you know, with what I think what the reason why like generative design is there at all is really to get people excited about it, to really, you know, make sure that everybody understands that the tool is there and the tool is powerful, and you know, and once they see how powerful it is, they explore a little deeper. And that's why I shared some of these other, you know, some of these other websites, because the stuff has been there for years, and not everybody's using it because they're, you know, they're intimidated by Python, perhaps. I know I am. Python's, you know, it's a brew. It's a completely different language. But having something like this is a little bit more, you know, approachable. And if you organize and categorize and color code it and make it available for people who aren't very programmable savvy, they'll be more likely to use it. So what we're really doing is by using the generative component within Revit, we're exposing the levers, that pull the curtain up and down. I don't know if that's a good analogy.
It's okay. Okay analogy. But no, it's an interesting idea, isn't it? The idea of bringing quite a tidy interface for these complex programming issues. So,
yeah. Well, I see Andre has unmuted himself. Is he?
Finally managed. I just wanted to. Ian's got this covered. I didn't want to, jump in there. But I'm seeing we have almost 50 people, and I'm really happy about that. That everybody keeps showing up to these. So thank you everybody for that. Oh, excellent. One question I've got
before
checkpoint.
Somebody overstepped somebody.
Okay.
Yeah. One question. Back in 2020.2, we could start releasing the internal origin.
Yeah.
What is the advantage of that?
Oh, you totally missed it, Andre. You totally missed it. Just letting you know that it is off by default now.
Yeah.
So you're happy.
That is fine, but like,
why?
What is the functionality and the happy point about it? How would it help me?
It's actually very critical for as you get more into IFC. It's quite critical that you know where the origin is of that kind of internal origin.
Right.
When you get into what? Sorry, your accent.
IFC export.
Oh, I haven't done that. Okay, good, cool.
Yeah, you've got if you're going into another program and coming back, you really need to know where that point is, because some programs only read that internal origin. And also if you're round tripping, so if you're going out and then back into Revit, Revit will want to try and align that internal origin again. So it's important that you know where it is and how to calculate for it.
It was kind of wild that it was hidden for so long. We knew it was there.
Yeah.
We knew it was there, but we didn't know. Couldn't see it.
Yeah, if you're going in and out of Rhino, for example, you kind of need it all in place. You need to be aware of that internal origin.
Right.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
That was a good question. Does Andre Voss have any other questions?
Yeah. Before we tail off, by the way, I should add that I don't think we mentioned it. Microsol are providing the AIA credits for today. So, Roger, you provided the email, didn't you, for getting in touch with you guys?
Annalise has put it in the chat.
Following up and doing that. Okay, great.
And basically marketing at microsolresources.com. Annalise actually also asked me to make sure everybody knows where we can get it. Know where you can download it. Obviously, if you're, you're logged into your Autodesk account, you can just go to products and features, all products and features. If you want to download a trial, you just go to Autodesk.com, Autodesk.com. Take a look at our blog. We have a lot of really great articles that we've been writing, things to help people work from home, new features, things that are out there. This was a great one, managing your Revit and BIM data with ID8 software. So there's a lot of good videos out there, a lot of good information. You'll find the product keys as well here in our blog. So when you're doing your installation, make sure to know where you find them. This will help people when they're installing something from the collection, or maybe something from they have the product directly and they don't know the product key. We make these blogs all the time, and they're all out there. So unless there's any other questions from Andre or from any of the other participants, It looks like people are still sticking around. Maybe they're waiting for Andre to offer the beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming out of a client meeting. That's why I was not around today. So I will be, actually, I'm using this to enhance my cocktail making skills, right? Everybody learns languages and music instruments. I'm learning cocktails. So I'll be making a mezcal old fashioned.
Oh, nice. Couple of bitters.
So, join me in spirit. Oh, that was a bad pun.
I got it. That was pretty good. I didn't have enough dad jokes.
Very good, indeed.
Other than that, if we're reaching our end, June 18th, panel discussion with some of our most esteemed academics, most of them returning speakers, Charlie, Leonard, Aisha, and Francisco out of Colombia, who's an absolute treat. Join us there. We had to cancel in March because it was literally the week everybody shut down and we weren't quite sure where to take it. But we're revisiting that. And but yeah, we're online, not in person. We will be seeing how this entire opening is happening. I don't think we will be the first group offering in-person meetings. We'll probably offer for a while, even if we're permitted to meet in person. I myself am not too eager to start increasing that risk. If I don't have to, I'll gladly stay home, and I'm expecting a lot of people doing the same.
Yeah, I don't want to get on that subway.
Yeah, exactly. So at least for the next couple of months, we'll keep doing this online. But hopefully in the fall, in the winter, we'll start getting back into personal meetings again. So yeah, there they are.
Here's the meeting that happened. That's scheduled for June. I have it up on screen. Everybody knows where to find it. They can sign up now.
Yep. And other than that, thank you everybody, and hope to see you again June 18th. And thank you, Ian, for stepping up. And good night, because Dan got late.
Yeah, good morning.
Indeed.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Yep. Have a good one. Stay safe. All right. No need to stick around, right?
No need to, Roger. But thank you again, and have a great night.
Any more questions or anything? I saw somebody raise their hand, I thought.
There were some, just like saying thank you for the presentations. Yeah, great feedback and all. I did say we're recording it and we're sharing it with everybody. So
okay,
pretty much that's it.
Excellent. All right, have a great night.
Have a great night. Great job, by the way. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.